I definitely I watched Finding Nemo like 5 times with my cousins, and I wanted to die. I'm like, I never want to watch this movie ever again in my entire life. Please
Uh,
make it stop. Hey everyone, welcome to the CCPC podcast. I'm Eric, your host, and today for our guest we have Hwejean J. Hey Hwejean.
Hi, Eric. Thanks,
Uh,
guys, for having
no
me.
problem. Glad you're here. When you're in Korea, you're teaching English, right?
Yeah, I was in this part of this company that, okay, well, I can explain to you now because I have time. Because normally when I don't have time and people ask me what I did, I'm like, how do I explain this? But basically, that company was like an online English learning kind of thing company. And they were trying to advertise conversational English rather than sit down and learn vocab, learn grammar, stuff like that. So they would get English teachers from for example, the Philippines or something. I don't know why the Philippines, but a lot of those English teachers were Filipino. And they would be their teachers and they would have conversational English with them. But I would just be the planner, the middleman who connects them and makes their schedule and guides them through the process and then keeps them accountable.
Mm.
So I would be like, hey, how come you didn't show up to session? Or make sure you're going to session. Or if they ask me questions like, hey, how should I say this? Or how can I say this? I would be the one to answer and things like that. And so I didn't do direct teaching, but the only direct teaching I did was we would do group study sessions where I would kind of be it'd just be a group session where they can come and and I would do activities and games. And if they have questions regarding grammar or conversational stuff, I would be teaching them and helping them and stuff like that. So
And where were you in the country?
in Seoul,
In Seoul,
yeah.
okay. And you were there for less than a year, right?
Yeah, I would say 10, 11
And
months.
so did you want to specifically come back to the States, or were you kind of forced to almost?
I actually was fine in Korea. In my opinion, I got adjusted to Korea very well. And I was kind of scared that I could see myself so I'm someone who wants to marry and have kids and stuff like that. And I could see myself settling down there in terms of that part of my life. But I was like, oh my gosh, is this what I want to do though? Because
You don't even
I was
know for
born and raised
everything.
in the States and I wanted to live in the States as an in quotes adult of post college. And so amidst that, I asked my dad, I was like, hey dad, when you came to America, what were you thinking in your head? What was going on in your head because you came in your mid-20s? And he was like, huh, I thought I would stay for 5 years and come back. But he literally stayed there, married, had children, raised the children, and so I was like, see, I feel like that's what's gonna happen to me. And I don't know if I want that. I don't know if I want to settle here, settle down here. Because my initial thought was oh, I'll give Korea
A
at
chance.
least 2, 3 years
Hmm.
and then decide. But if I did, I think I would definitely be there forever kind of thing.
So you think less that you would want to be in America, so you are trying it now, or
I guess whatever I decide, I just wanted to live here as an adult, I guess.
just see what it's like?
Yeah,
Okay, gotcha.
because I think I would have regretted it if I didn't. And later on, I think that could have been ah, if I went, I wish I could
What
have
if?
yeah, and so I was like, well, you know what? I don't want that, so I'm gonna go back. Because in my head, I'm like, okay, I kind of know what Korea is like, and I kind of low key liked it, and I would be fine living here
Hmm.
later on. So if I go back, then I can always come back
Yeah, because I remember when you left, I was like, oh, Hudgens probably leaving for forever.
forever.
I was like, oh wait,
You're
there
back.
she is. I was glad you're back, but I was definitely surprised.
Yeah. Because also when I left, it was such a big, oh my gosh, I'm
Life
going to
change, right?
Korea.
Right.
I'm going to be there. But then I came back and I was like, huh, JK.
What did you enjoy most about Korea? I mean, your time there.
Oh, definitely the
Of
food,
course, of
public
course,
transportation.
of course.
And I really loved it's called koin norebang, the
Oh,
karaoke's,
right, right.
where it's just a booth and it's so cheap. You just go put a couple dollars and sing few songs and It was so fun. I loved it. I would like go there by myself, like after work. Like
Mm.
my mom would be like, "Why are you so late today?" I was like, no,
Singing by
nothing,
myself.
nothing. Like no reason. We just got off late today." Like
What about your least favorite things?
I remember in Korea, I was like, I just want to like see like a patch of grass, or like, I just want to like sit in a patch of grass because it's just so city. Like, because I was in Seoul and it's
Right,
like
right.
so city, like no like fields, like when you're driving or walking, like it's just there's no green. I was like, I just want to like smell grass.
Is it like less green than New York City? Is there no parks even, or is it
I
just
think
where you
there
were?
are parks, but it's just not the same because it's like made for that area. You know what I mean? Like,
Right. The no natural foliage and
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah, yeah. I mean, because it's probably only because I was in Seoul.
right,
Like,
the
yes.
most densely packed city in
Yes,
Korea.
but just like in general of like because we can walk like drive around with the windows down and randomly smell like, oh, like people cut grass today, like that kind of thing. It's like the little things of like that. I was like I just want to smell or see like grass. Yeah.
What was the best food that you ate there in your shortish time?
Well, I don't know about best like food in particular, but I really love like street food, like kimbap, tteokbokki, sundae, like
I heard it died down a lot in like not popularity, but um that there's just not as much as there used to be.
yeah, so like the in terms of like street food style where it's just like a tent or like a truck or like a something like that, I think it has died down a bit, but just like in terms of like that food category in general, I really love and it's so cheap. Like you get a roll of like good kimbap, like our equivalent of what, like $2.
Dang.
Yeah. And
Get
like
that for like 10 bucks here.
yeah. And so I was just like, I love it.
Yeah. It's interesting that you felt so at home in Korea to me because I know when you grew up in a very non-Asian culture, right?
Yep.
Were you like the only Asian person? Is that what was it?
Yeah, so like my cousin and I grew up together and we were in the same grade. Him and I were like the only like East Asian people in our grade. Not that our grade was like huge, but still like very predominantly white population where I grew up. So like not much diversity. I could count on like one hand the number of like East Asians in my school.
Did you ever feel like you didn't fit in, or was it you just kind of assimilated almost into that culture?
Honestly, I think about this a lot. I like have never really experienced like that kind of like racism or anything. Or like I don't know, like I can't tell if I'm like subconsciously blocking it out cuz like I loved grade school. I loved where I grew up and like I never felt discriminated against. But yeah, I don't know. That's just me.
So the time that you were growing up, enjoyed, and also the time where you're in Korea, you also enjoyed, right?
Mhm.
Did you enjoy them for similar reasons, or do you think that you enjoy the pros of each differently?
I think I enjoyed the pros of each differently, but, like, it also might be because, like, I never had, like, a huge identity crisis in terms of my ethnicity. Because, like, I think growing up, I've always accepted that, like, I am going to be Korean and I am going to be American. Like, that is something that will be both a part of me. Obviously, like, appearance-wise, I'm Korean, but a lot of, like, like, cultural things or, like, just how I grew up, born and raised here, like, I've always, like, had accepted that, I guess, but also a good thing or a big reason of why I think I was able to have a good time in Korea was because, like, there was no language barrier, and growing up, I was very involved in like Korean culture kind of things in terms of like the media. Like growing up, I only really watched Korean TV and like Korean dramas or like
Yeah.
K-pop stuff. I would always like dance and sing along to those things. And I knew a lot of the like cultural stuff. I think it has a lot to do with how my parents raised me and just going to a church that had both like first and second generation. Yeah, I think that's why I was able to like have a good time in Korea. And I just remember being in Korea, like driving from the airport to like what would be my house there. Like I was like looking out the window and like everyone was Asian. So I was like, whoa, like this is weird.
Yeah, yeah. Do you feel particularly pulled to either your Korean identity or your American identity, or is it kind of just the same thing?
I think most of the time it's the same, but there are like places or events or incidences where I kind of am like, oh, I feel more Korean or like I feel more American. I definitely felt more American in Korea.
Right, yeah.
Um,
Makes sense.
yeah, like even though people didn't look at me weirdly because physical appearance wise, I'm Korean, so I blend in, right? I felt like I was looking at them weirdly because everyone's Korean. So I was like, whoa, like this is really different. Like I was like, whoa. I was like, I don't know, I can't tell if I like it or not because I like it because it's like cool because I've never experienced this in my like long term in my life before. But also it's like unfamiliar because I'm used to just seeing like people of all colors. So it's like, yeah.
So your church that you went to when you're growing up, did you have to drive pretty far for that, or was that
Yeah,
kind of
yeah. It was
close?
like
Okay.
40 minutes
Okay. So
away.
when you went to was college the first time then where you had a community who you lived with that was more predominantly Asian?
Yeah, because like even my church, it was in Midlothian. Even there, it has a bit of a higher Korean population compared to like where I like my city that I lived in. And so like going to church, like my youth group friends were like the only kind of like Asian or Korean community that I was exposed to. And so we weren't like a huge like church or anything, so it was still like pretty limited and and like like you said we're not living together like so we just see each other like what twice a week max.
Mhm, mhm.
And things like that. So yeah, college was the first time I experienced that and it was really funny because people from Nova experience a bigger like Asian community. So when they go to somewhere like William and Mary, they're like, "Oh, this is like predominantly white." Like
Right. It's
it's different. But for me, I was like, whoa, this is like the first time I'm having this type of Korean community where people are from different places and like I just get to be with them and like, it's not like a we have to be with each other like a youth group. Like in
sure,
youth
yeah,
group,
yeah,
like
yeah.
we kind of have to be with each other, but for this it's different. And so I really thought it was funny, like watching the contrast of that. And when people are like, William Mary's like so white, but then
You're
I'm
like,
like,
"Really?"
really?
Yeah.
Like this is pretty diverse to me because I came from a predominantly white town. So it's like, whoa.
Now having lived in Korea and going to college, do you think you could go back to living in your hometown, or do you think then it might feel a little bit awkward?
I think I could, but I do think it will be a little bit more awkward.
You'd probably prefer it now to have slightly more Asian population at least.
Yeah, I guess I never thought about it, but I guess I do, or I guess I would. I don't know. I'm like thinking a lot on this because it's funny how
It's
you
a lot
mentioned that.
hypothetical, yeah.
Yeah. Also, it's funny how you mentioned that because like the last time I went, I did kind of think about that more. Like I was kind of like, wow, Colonial Heights is like so white. Like like growing up, I didn't think much about it because I was just enjoying life. Like growing up, I didn't really it. It wasn't as like prevalent of a topic in my own head. But going back, I was like, huh, like
Didn't know that.
yeah, like
Yeah.
we are the only Asian people in here kind of thing. But it wasn't something like, oh yeah, like I'd never go back. Like I wouldn't mind going back and like having a family there. It says a lot, I guess, of how much I loved my childhood.
Yeah, yeah, sounds
But
like you had
yeah,
a very fun childhood.
yeah.
There any particular fond memories you have of Colonial Heights?
Um, I wouldn't say Colonial Heights. I just think it's because
Childhood.
I just enjoyed like who I was with and the things that I did and stuff like that.
So more the people than the
Yeah, I think
location.
I am a more like people person. Like in terms of like I get attached to like the people and that's why I get attached to that environment. But I am someone who does get attached to like that environment. Like I was when I graduated high school, I was like, "Oh, I'm so sad like I'm going to miss it so much." Like when I graduated college, I was like, "Ah, like I'm going to miss it so much." But a lot of people around me were like, "I'm ready to go. Like I'm
Yeah,
ready to
yeah.
graduate. Like I'm ready to adult. Like I'm ready to start life." And I was just like,
I kind of like it
"No."
here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Can we do a
Yeah,
little
I was like,
longer?
I kind of wouldn't mind staying, but whatever.
Yeah.
And even Korea, like now that I've been back, I miss it a lot more than I thought I would. Like I thought I wouldn't really miss it as much as I do now, but I do miss it a lot.
And so it seems to me that you miss a lot of these for the connections you made there personally.
Yeah,
But
I mean, probably because, like, if I had an awful time, like, I probably I
right,
probably
right.
wouldn't be
So do you
attached to
think
it.
you could, well, I think you can make friends wherever you went personally, but do you think it's
Thanks, man.
you could do you think you could personally enjoy like pretty much anywhere you go because you say you were able to make those connections and you already knew that?
I think so, because I think I'm the type of person that's like, well, I'm here, so might as well like
Make
make
the
the
most out
best
of it.
of it
Yeah, yeah.
because there's no point in like sulking about something because then like the only person that's not benefiting from that is me. So like if I'm at a place where I am newer or like I don't know, maybe I don't know anyone or more uncomfortable, but it's like a long-term thing, it's kind of like okay, enough like being shy or being like not shy, but just like being like an observer kind of thing. I'm like, okay, I kind of want to put myself in now and just make the best out of it.
Yeah. When you're with your friends, would you be okay with just hanging out and talking, or do you feel like you would want to be doing things?
I am, like I mentioned before, I'm like very not a picky person.
Hmm.
So I can do anything.
Anything.
Yeah. Because when I think about it, I realized this at some point like early in college, like a lot of my like what I who I consider my best friends are introverted. And so, like, the friend that I talked about that I visit in Colonial Heights, she also went to William and Mary. And so during times like we would just be like, "Hey, you want to grab lunch today?" Be like, "Yeah," and we would not say a word and just eat and be like, "All right, got to go to class, like see you next week." And like but we would both enjoy that time and like I wouldn't think it's awkward or anything. But also I would have friends who are very like sporadic. Hey, like let's go to the beach tomorrow. And I'm like, okay. And like I'd go to the beach tomorrow, have a blast. Like so I'm very like I can do whatever.
Hmm. That makes sense. Makes you a very good person to be friends with because you can do so many different things. I know you're really heavy into music, right? Both playing and writing.
Yeah, how did you know that?
Oh, sorry. I may have gotten some help from some people. Where
Yeah.
did that come from? And do you still do that right now?
Um Honestly, I don't know where it came from, but I just remember when I was even in elementary school, I would like in quotes like make write songs or like make songs. Although like, you know, if you looked back at them, it'd just be like not it'd just be
Not
like
songs.
yeah, like not a song. But yeah, I am into music. I enjoy it a lot. Like I may not I'm not the best at it, but it's just it's something I like to do.
Like which instruments?
Um I guess like
I'm assuming vocalists because you do karaoke.
yeah, yeah. I primarily like to sing. I think it's just because like I can do it anytime, anywhere. Like I don't have to like pull out an instrument. But I was also a band person growing up. I took band middle through high school. My like primary instrument was flute for band. And then I was also involved in praise team since like middle school. So I know I dabble in like pretty much all the praise team instruments.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the songwriting really kind of happened, I guess, more during high school and college. I would say college, maybe. And I still kind of do it now. I just have to be in like I'll think of something and I'll be like, oh, this will be a good like song topic to write about. Or like, oh, these would be like good song lyrics or something where I don't like actually sit and make a whole song, or I haven't in a bit, like a while. The most recent song I wrote, I guess, was maybe in 2020 or early 2021.
Oh wow. Okay, that
Yeah.
was a long time ago. So I'm assuming you're writing these pretty much for yourself then, right?
I mean, because not a lot of people know, but then if they were explicitly like, can you play one for me? I'll be like,
I
sure.
guess.
Yeah. But yeah, it's not something that I want to like like be famous for
Right,
or
right,
like
right.
get a job or something related to it. Yeah.
What do you personally get out of it when you are writing these songs, or is it just fun pastime?
Um, I think it's both. It is fun pastime, but also like because when I look back at them, it kind of like tells me what I was feeling or what I was thinking at that time.
Like a diary kind of?
Kind of, because like it can also just be really random. Like it doesn't have to have like super deep meaning, but just like or it doesn't even have to be about me or my life. It's just kind of like, oh, I think this is something like people would relate to or something like that. And then I look back and I'm like, oh, so at that point in time, that's what I was thinking. And so, yeah.
Cool. It's a good look into your own past. And are you really into music theory, or is it mostly just you come up with like a melody and you try to write a song for it?
I think it's more like melody slash lyrics. I think the lyrics is what I really like to write.
Mm. Is there a common theme of what you try to write about?
I think so far common theme have been like, I don't know, in quotes like love songs, but
Hmm,
I
hmm.
mean, I don't really know another word to say because love song sounds very like
Generic.
cheesy slash generic to me, but
Yeah, that makes sense. I remember you helped me write my guitar part for a song that I was playing for a wedding.
oh, okay,
Okay,
yeah.
so here, I appreciate you for that because I had no idea what I was doing. But you're like, I don't think that sounds right. I'm like, really? Okay, let me try this one. I got one that eventually worked. Um, I even though I wasn't part of it, I know ACF played a big role in your life, right? And you played probably a big role in ACF.
I hope so, but yes, ACF played a big role in my life. Yeah.
What are some ways that it played into your life?
I guess when I look back in college, I had like just my main community and like ACF was one of them. Bunga was one of them. This other like group of friends outside of those two things was like another. And so just like for me to have that kind of community, I think was a big thing, especially one that I can like incorporate my faith life with. So like ACF, it's kind of like I can do anything and everything and be myself with in terms of what everyone else is comfortable with. So like for example in Bunger, like I was still myself. Still let my teammates know like, hey, I have like church stuff, like this is what I do, this is what I believe in, but it's not like I don't think everyone, not everyone agrees or is like that. But I think with ACF, predominantly our it's a Christian fellowship. So so even for people who didn't believe or something, like it still provided them that community and that opportunity and chance to like be in worship maybe, or
Hmm.
see like people who do identify themselves as Christians of how they could be living their lives.
Did you find it difficult to balance your time amongst those three groups?
Yeah, sometimes it was because especially when I made an effort to serve in ACF and I was a captain of the team at one point for Bungra. So like in terms of being responsible and like taking that captaincy like seriously and serving in ACF, like there were a lot of times where I had to like compromise for them, but overall I just tried to really make my faith life something that was like the priority. So if it if it had something to do with just like logistics or something or like a meeting that I can't make or something, like I gave myself some slack for that and had compromises in that area, but in terms of actual like worship or like things that I do need to be in for ACF, like I really tried to make an effort not to like compromise for that. And I think, I mean, I still do that now. Like every interview I do, like I make sure I tell them like, hey, I I identify as Christian. I go to church. Like I can't do Sundays. Like I
Oh,
can't
wow.
do weekends. Like because I have to set aside that time for my like responsibilities at church. And most of the time they understand. And honestly, if they didn't, it's like, is that somewhere I want to be?
Sure. Ending
So
in the first place.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And leaving college, have you been able to maintain those robust relationships, or do you think just with distance and everything, it gets hard?
Honestly, sometimes it's not even I guess it's just my own laziness of like or not laziness, but it's just like in my head, I'm like, "Oh, I'll catch up with them later," kind of thing. Because I don't think distance or time is something that affects me in that way. Like I think I'm someone that can always like
Jump back
yeah,
into.
like pick up where I left off. So like in terms of friendships, if I know that person is someone that needs a bit more of my attention where they're not like that, then I do try to make an effort to constantly be reaching out. But if I'm under the understanding that they are like me and they can jump back in,
Right.
it kind of lets me know, okay, I don't have to like
That understanding's
yeah, the
there
understanding
between,
it's
right.
mutual, like a
Right.
mutual understanding that we don't constantly have to like be updating each other, talking to each other. But
Hmm.
I do have some friends that I know that they take that like
More
as a
person.
it
Yeah.
more personally in the sense like that's that's more special to them. So it's
Right,
like
right.
I do make an effort for those people. Yeah.
Now that you're in school and you also have another job, or is that
Yeah, I just like am in a part-time, like a retail job just to live.
yeah,
Cause like my internship is unpaid.
yeah, yeah. Then that must take a ton of time now. How do you even manage that free time that you have now? Not even just with those friends, but like everything, you know?
Well now I do have to probably stop working at that part-time job. Starting June, I really won't be working anymore because my client load is like upping.
Mm.
And so I'll probably just student loans,
Student
student
loan.
loans. I'll just have to like make ends meet that way. But in terms of balance, I think I'm pretty okay with setting boundaries. It's like I know I am a person that does want to do everything. Like I want to do everything and I want to say yes to everything and I love having fun. I love doing stuff, but I do know
Your
that if I
limits.
do that,
Right.
then
You're gonna suffer at some
yes.
point. Yeah.
So I do like set my boundaries and I do have to say no to friends sometimes. Or I do like, think to myself, like, I can put off schoolwork. Like, it's not, I'd rather do this than
Hmm.
do schoolwork.
Wow.
Um,
You don't find it difficult at all to remain disciplined in your schoolwork now that you're out of school and like your close friends aren't doing school anymore?
well, a lot of my close friends like are doing
Oh,
school
never mind.
or their jobs are like taking a toll on them where they are also like, I don't have time. But I think it's just difficult to focus on my coursework because like I it's just difficult to focus on my coursework. Like I'd
Just
rather
too
be
much
doing
to
other
know.
stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
I try my best not to procrastinate, which like I'm better compared to college, but I still find myself procrastinating a lot.
Yeah, same here.
I don't know if it'll ever leave me or go
Right,
away,
right. I'm like,
hopefully, but
surely in 10 years I won't be procrastinating anymore, right? Right. I think I said that 10 years ago and probably 10 years before that too.
honestly, like in grade school though, I was pretty good. Like it got bad just during high school when I had a lot of extracurricular activities. But even during like elementary, middle, I was always that person of like homework first, then play.
Hmm.
And like it worked for me for a while. And then later high school and then college happened.
Last question, and I'm saved this for last so we could just cut it out if it's too controversial. What is one thing you like about CCPC and one thing you would like to change about CCPC?
Um, I like how CCPC provides like practical or like the practice application,
Takeaways. Yep.
takeaways, practical application or takeaways from like a lot of its sermons and messages during Sundays. Which kind of like that's something I noticed like immediately when I first went to CCPC because it's like during my college time and like I really enjoyed that. Yeah, I really liked that. I also liked how like even though people might not want to hear certain things, like it's
Hmm.
still said gracefully. Sometimes I wish it was said even more in depth. Like I wish
Mm.
we could talk about it more. Um so yeah, that's something that's like a pro about CCPC that I like. Something that I think could change is just like the like initial like welcomingness of newcomers because I was like kind of like I was this weird hybrid of like I knew people but I didn't. I was new but I wasn't. But in the long run, big picture, I was like I am. Um and I just feel like I know that there's only so much that the home church or the home people can do if the newcomer is very like still withdrawn and not really making an effort as well. Um And since I know that, that's why I also just made sure to make an effort to reach out, like be involved, do the thing, look for things that I needed or wanted. But for people who don't do that, like I don't know how they would be plugged in.
Right. And they
So,
deserve an avenue to be
yeah,
part of the
yeah.
church.
And so it's like and I know CCPC does make the effort of like community groups, journey groups, all those different groups that I think are beneficial and that is where people find their community. But also even that initial like, hey, you should do this, or like there is something like this. Like, how do we get the people to even know that, you know?
Right, right. Yeah, that's a great question. I think that's something I personally think about a lot. I think we've been working towards, but definitely have a lot
I
of room to
do
grow.
know that that is something that CCPC does work on a lot, and so I don't think it's like a I just think it's, you know, a work in progress, and like I understand that. It's just and it happens like not just here, you know. Like it happens everywhere, but it's just like as someone who is newer, I kind of think to myself like if I never did these things, like would anyone have reached out to
Like,
me?
would
Like
I
would
be,
anyone have like said hello to me?
because you're like really plugged into women's ministry now, right? Or
Yeah, I like to just go to their events and like be with the people, and like I serve in Central Kids, and like I'm hoping to serve in Praise Team soon, and like I go to these events and like I sign up for these things. But if I didn't and if I wasn't there and I just attended on Sundays in hopes that someone would reach out to me, would someone have ever reached
right,
out to
right.
me? If I didn't know people prior, like if I didn't know you, like if I didn't know my like kind of original friends there, like would people have done that? Honestly, like I don't know.
Yeah.
I could see I could see my answer being no. Like I
I
don't think
think
people
I
would
think
have
the
done
answer is probably no,
that.
and I think that's something we definitely should work on as a church.
But also it's kind of like, you know, how do you do that? With like with those kinds of numbers and those kinds of like, you know, how does that happen? Cuz it's just natural. Like people grew up with each other, people who are already friends. Like it is natural to like kind of go there, but
At the same time, hopefully we can like
be
push.
inclusive with
Right,
those
right.
groups of people.
Even despite knowing all this, push that boundary as
Yep,
much as we possibly
exactly.
can.
Yeah.
Because knowing, not
Yeah.
everyone has the wherewithal to do that like
Mhm.
you and I might be able to do. Well, thanks for sharing, and I'm sorry I threw you a hardball at the end there, but
No
you had a
worries.
great answer. And thanks again, Hwejean. This was our extra cut. We're testing to see how this will go, but appreciate it. And yeah.